Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reptile Rendezvous podcast. Today we have a special guest joining us, Andrew, who is a herping enthusiast and loves all things reptiles, bugs, and snakes. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Can you tell us just a little bit about what herping is and how you got into it?
Definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on here, Alex. I really appreciate it. First podcast ever, so excited, slightly nervous. But
yeah, I've taken a couple of people's podcast virginities so far, so that's quite exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as herping, I would say herping, the best way to describe it would be it's basically the kind of, the act of going out into nature, into habitat, maybe in your local area, or if you're visiting a different place and finding animals out in their natural environment, but specifically reptiles and amphibians. I kind of use the term herps as well for invertebrates and things like that, because I enjoy finding all different types of wildlife in that spectrum. But
it's easier sort of to use an umbrella term than to say I'm looking for bugs and I'm looking for reptiles and amphibians
so nature, hoping to, it can include stumbling across them, out hiking, say in a forest or a field, flipping material of some sort, be it boards or tin. That's a very popular method of herping and finding target species here in the US. And then you have road cruising, where you're basically just driving up and down random country roads and waiting for different types of herpetofauna to be crossing, hopefully.
So let's dive into our first question. Do you have any tips for safely handling bugs and insects while exploring nature and herping?
Definitely. So specifically, sorry, my dog's on my lap right now, and she just saw a dog outside the window.
We've just calmed her down.
Yeah, it's okay. Specifically, bugs and insects. I would say, first of all, know what it is. Know what it is that you're, looking at, what you're handling. Is it safe for you to be handling? Is it going to bite, sting potentially? And then also, bugs are very fragile creatures. They basically just have their exoskeleton as protection for the most part. So you have to just be very gentle and slow with them, kind of coaxing them, say if you wanted to pick one up, it was safe to kind of slowly coaxing them onto your hand, keeping them close to the ground, especially things like tarantulas and spiders, because if they fall from, a high place and tear open their exoskeleton, if it bursts, it can cause issues, and basically they can't come back from that. So really just being very gentle and respectful to the creatures. They are animals after all. I know it's crazy to some people that like the creepy crawlies are also animals, just like a dog and a cat are, or snakes and things like that. So I mean they deserve our respect. Extremely beneficial to have in our environment. And
Cool. And then that leads on to the second part of the question, snakes and other reptiles.
So I would say, as I mentioned with the bugs, definitely being able to safely identify the animals in the area that you're out there herping, exploring. And then, specifically with snakes, I would say, you just want to be it's not always possible to be slow. And sometimes if you really want to say catch a specific species, first of all, make sure it's not something that's, endangered or anything like that, things that you can, legally interact with, or protected and legally interact with, without permits. But you want to, gently try and pick them up if possible. And then you want to support them with two hands and just be, as careful and respectful as possible, and assume that there's a chance you could get bit. Any animal with a mouth has the potential to bite. So
that's what I always say. Is it going to bite me? And it's like, well, it could. It's got a mouth, so it could.
It's got a mouth, and chances are a wild animal probably thinks that you're trying to eat it, or cause some kind of harm to it until they settle down. You do have individuals within even a species that can be more relaxed or more crazy than others. So you just have to take that into consideration. But absolutely, just treating them with respect, like you would any other creature. Just because just because snakes specifically don't have legs doesn't mean they're these evil, cold-blooded killers.
Snakes have feelings too.
Out to harm us. Absolutely, yeah.
Sure. And of course, that goes without saying. Don't take wildlife home. As
of course.
As pets, because especially the ones that are protected, or I know the great crested newt we have here is you can get in a lot of trouble. You get, I think it's like 6 years in prison, something, and a huge fine. That's a good
way to deter collecting of wild species. And
you need a permit to move them and like handle them, and you can get in a lot of trouble just for doing that wrong. So it definitely
we definitely have species here like that as far as like snakes go. San Francisco garter snake,
fox turtles are protected as well, aren't they?
Turtles, gopher tortoise, extremely protected, because they're such a vital, especially gopher tortoise is such a vital part to that that kind of scrub pine ecosystem. So
they are great little guys. I think I saw one on my Instagram feed earlier, actually. I think
really?
I can't remember. It was someone that just had come across one. Like, I don't know what I'd do if we don't have anything cool like that. Like, we don't have any turtle species or
really?
Or tortoises, no. So
me being from South Florida, I would see, they are heavily protected, but I would see them all over the place anytime I go to a local park. So I think growing up with them, I kind of maybe took it for granted a little bit, but they are really amazing animals, and the burrow ecosystems they build and how it benefits other species that use it to find food or for shelter. They're large underground burrow systems. So.
Well, you didn't know we had hedgehogs here, so actually a lot of US Canadians don't know that, because when I said hoglets to you, you thought that I meant pigs.
Yeah, that's the only. Anytime I hear hog anything, I assume pig. That's interesting. Hoglets. So I like that.
Yeah, no, it's cute. Yeah, no, we don't see. I used to see them all the time, like when I was a kid, but we don't really see them that often now. Which
so they just out wandering about in the grasses sometimes, or okay.
Yeah, just chilling. You don't usually see them. You usually only see them like when something's wrong. So, or when they're no more, when a car is unfortunately had a but no, hedgehogs are cool. They're cool little guys. It's a cool thing to have.
Great. I couldn't imagine like out herping and just seeing a hedgehog run across the road or something. I would think I was making that up in my mind, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, people have people make little hides and stuff for them in their gardens, and I mean I have badgers come up to my front door, like right to the front door, because I've got a ring camera from above, so I can see that if the cats want to come in, so I don't have to get up every 2 seconds. And often I'll just have a notification and be like, oh, it's the cat. Oh no, it's not. It's just a badger. So and foxes. And
I wonder how the badgers. I'm not sure what the badgers look like there, because we have like American badgers here, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're similar to ours.
I think just like black and white.
Pretty good sized animals.
Yeah, just like maybe a smallish medium dog sort of size, but they're quite aggressive. So and they can do a lot of damage. So I know the ones here for sure. That's crazy that you have them just showing up at your place like that. There's a badger set just across the road. So, and they are actually a protected species as well. So you can't disturb their sets. You can't, harm them. You can't do anything to them, or where they are, you have to just kind of leave them. But I do remember before, a couple of years ago, there was they make the mounds. They just make like big piles of dirt. There was one big enough. I've got a picture of it somewhere. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. I think it was on my other phone, but there was one that took up an entire parking space. It was
wow.
gigantic. Like, I didn't even realize that they could make them. And yeah, apparently it goes like underneath all of our houses. And
Just a massive tunnel system underground.
oh yeah, they go for, like, if I'm not mistaken, like miles. I'm sure they go for quite yeah. But then also that's kind of dangerous for us because they're sort of, so like the roads there, they're on one side, which is also houses behind it, and then like a row of houses where the side that I'm on. Obviously you don't want to end up with any sinkholes, or I don't think they can cause sinkholes, but I mean, if they very, sinkholes are like one of my, like, scary. It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it kind of,
I've never experienced anything. I've never had to worry about anything like that, thankfully, here. But that sounds pretty terrifying.
No, they're all right. And there's like, foxes and that kind of thing. So I've got a tattoo of one actually on my arm. His name's Rex. Yeah, his name's Rex. I'll send you a better picture of it. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually want to get some more tattoos. I only have 2 right now. But,
I have like, I don't know how many I have. People ask me, they're like, how many do you have? I'm like, I don't know. It depends as well. Because I've got just like the hands, ends of the fingers.
Those are great.
Kind of say like palms. Most of my arms. I started my leg sleeve a couple of months ago. So like back of the knee, I've got a really big piece on. So it's like floral, kind of like this kind of thing. But obviously like bigger, thicker. One on the leg, back of the knee, that like my hip, and then and my entire butt cheek I've got done as well, which was really, that was quite fun to, like, anyone coming into the studio, there was just me with, like, I had shorts on, so I kind of just pulled them up. But that was kind of fun. I was just like, don't mind me, I'm just you got to get it done. So and you have a few of them are animal tats, right? I saw. I've got a spider, I've got a snake, I've got this moth, I've got like the Jurassic Park logo. I've got a frog on a like a toadstool. I've got a Sphinx cat. I've got Rex. I've got the fox. I've got. Did I say snake? I said snake already, didn't I?
I believe so. That's great. I want to do something similar. Yeah, like every place I travel to that I say find some kind of crazy species that I've been targeting. Maybe I get it like tattooed and get a feel. Yeah. I was thinking like every state I visit in the US, I'm going to get like their national animal, just like as a tattoo. I thought, that would be quite cool. Really so, it's just, very expensive and very, people, if they don't know how long it takes, they're kind of like, it took to do the back of the knee, the hip, the butt cheek, the other piece on the leg, that was 8-ish hours, maybe a bit longer. So because they're like bigger pieces as well. And then they'll eventually just all sort of fit into one sort of completed leg sleeve. So I'm really looking forward to it. Froggy water bottle. I love frogs. Proper MILF. I love it when I say that because people are like, MILF, and I'm like, man, I love frogs. That's funny. That's how I feel anytime I go herping to anybody outside of the herping community. And
they're like, is that a disease?
Yeah, like are you going in search of diseases? Like that's just like weird flex, but okay. You just find oh gosh. No, it is funny because they're just like, but some of the places we go to, like some of the crazy abandoned places, you see some gross, weird mold and all kinds of weird stuff. And I do think I'm like, man, I'm gonna find some kind of like brand new disease out here that nobody's ever heard of. The intrusive thoughts are just kind of like,
touch it. But then you're also like, don't touch it.
What's
but then
gonna
the
happen?
intrusive, the intrusive thoughts are like, you should do it.
I should be the one.
I'm that friend that's like, if someone dares me to do it, even though if it's stupid, I'll just be like, yeah. If it's, I'm always up for a laugh, I'll do it.
Oh,
it's funny.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. It's good. Everyone has to have that friend. So the silly one that just,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Someone's got to do it. So, speaking of that, how do you balance the thrill of herping with like respecting the natural habitats of the animals and the wildlife? Because as we were saying, we don't want to disturb any part of the the ecosystem.
I would say as far as trying to be an avid and decent herper, and also respecting their behaviors and their the things that they're doing in their environment. I mean, it's important to as I mentioned, it is. I'm definitely not against occasionally handling wildlife as long as it's done respectfully, and also with respect to, say, if you come across a couple animals that are in courtship, they're mating, like you don't want to disturb them when they're in the middle of that. You don't want to disrupt the cycle of reproduction or anything in that matter. If you're
I'm not smiling because I'm immature. I mean, I am immature, but it made me think of Toad Patrol, where helping frogs and toads and newts and stuff across roads and to the ponds so they could, and you'd find an amplexus, which is a great word. So for those who don't know, an amplexus is just a mating pair. You'd find just two frogs as an amplexus in the middle of the road, and it just is so funny because it's just like because I talk to them, of course, because I'm strange like that. I'll be like, guys, what are you doing? Can you please get out the road? Like, you can have your fun, but well, of course that's probably the only exception.
That is definitely an exception. If it's disrupt them or they get smushed by a car, an oncoming vehicle, totally get them out of the road, and make sure you're, especially on when road cruising, you want to make sure that you put them in the direction that they were facing or heading, because they will very oftentimes try to recross if you were to put them on the side they came from. So definitely something important to mention. But any reptiles, especially. So,
or when it's frogs or toads, they clamp so tightly on each other that they're pretty easy to pick up and move, which is good. They're just like, no, I don't care if the human's picking me up, And
they're not going to try and bite you all over like crazy, like water snakes would. But
I wish.
And just not disrupting, I would say, the habitat, the wildlife. Just tearing up some maybe local pond or something by running through it, and definitely respecting the habitat as well. Specifically, say, there's definitely been issues in the past with herpers or people trying to get into herping that, will go through a forest and they'll rip the bark off of trees looking for snakes, which it is, especially in, say, like North Florida or really any parts of Florida where you have pine trees. Snakes do like to hang out in places like behind pine bark on trees, but you don't want to be ripping off all of the trees. I mean, first of all, it's not beneficial for the trees for sure, but also that's removing, valuable habitat for those animals. When you're flipping rocks over, when you're flipping rocks over to find creatures under them, or pieces of wood, always put it back to where it was, because you're disrupting that micro habitat, the micro environment that's been growing and creating a little space for that animal, that reptile, or that herp that it lives under. And when you move that and you don't put it back, first of all, that micro habitat is going to be destroyed, and now that snake has to maybe find a new place to reside. Those same tunnels that it built under that ecosystem aren't going to be there anymore. So just always put things back, as you found them in nature, and don't disrupt animals mating for sure. Don't disrupt animals if they're in the middle of eating something. If it's unintentional, say you're taking a video of it, I mean, yeah, there's, it on occasion it happens, maybe they get spooked, but, do not just go pick up a snake while it's consuming a catfish or something. So
yeah, that's guaranteed to get you bitten. So
right.
But no, it's good to talk about these kind of things, because this is why I said share some tips for safe handling and respecting the environment and the animals, because it's, if you don't know, then it's a good place to start out, because if you don't know, then you can't blame you for that. It's like, oh, I didn't know that, that's great, like that I know now, I know I can do this, and
and yeah, so just an example, when I was in Kansas herping, we were out there in the countryside flipping rocks, because that's kind of how you do it in Kansas. You just flip rocks and in the rolling hills out there. And we came across a number of places that looked like they had already been explored by herpers or somebody that was definitely out there looking for the animals. I don't know if they were trying to collect them or what, but a lot of the rocks had been flipped and they were very obviously not moved back, because you could see the outline of where the rock was, where the grass and everything under it had died. So yeah, just extremely important to keep that habitat intact. Leave it as it was. I forget exactly how that saying goes, but leave no trace, basically. Put things how they were. So
yeah, no, it's important. So yeah, I guess, is there anything else you want to add to? I mean, we've covered it, but is there any other sort of, it doesn't have to be the best piece, or any other advice you would give people that want to start herping?
Yes, I would say that the best advice I could give to someone just starting out in herping, of course, do your research. I do think that places like YouTube, which I post a lot of content on YouTube. I film a lot of YouTube content. I have made a video about, how to get started herping on my YouTube page as well. But YouTube can be a decent place, to find that content if you know where to look. There are a number of dedicated herping channels out there now that you can check out. There's myself, there is Will Robertson, NKF Herping. But those are all, those are some great pages to check out that are very, respectful to the environment, the animals, and I believe they also have videos on how to get started herping as well. But
yeah, no, I follow all of them. But
Google, like, do your research, try to learn about your local wildlife, how to find them and where to find them. I mean, you can go to little parks in your cities. Especially here in the US, we're very fortunate to have that, but we have little areas, very unassuming places that you wouldn't expect to see wildlife, really, like pollution and just very micro, tiny bits of habitat. And you can find snakes, turtles, and you'd be surprised sometimes the places that these animals can do well. And you're not going to have the same kind of variety, but you will still find animals in these places. So I would say get started there, in some of your local areas, and potentially, reach out to some people on Instagram. You can reach out to me. I mean, I'm always open to, sharing this hobby, this passion with people, and we'd be willing to. I think a lot of us would be hopefully open to answering any questions you have about getting into it, how to get started, because I do think a lot more people recently are getting interested in herping.
There's quite a lot of videos around of people flipping and going out and doing things. There's obviously like fishing Garrett's another one, but that's how do I put his videos? Don't try that at home.
Yeah, very much. And I think that's the draw to a lot of his content, is that, it seems like
even, people that don't realize how dangerous it is.
Definitely.
Going barefoot in the Amazon, that's
Absolutely do not do
He's got
that.
some balls.
Yeah, have precaution. Here in Texas, where I'm at right now, we have tons of Western diamondback rattlesnakes. Anywhere that there's tall grass, I mean, I've seen I would say 6 or 10, in a couple hours of herping, like easily sometimes. You definitely want to be precaution because one bite can absolutely, ruin your time and cost you a crap ton of money. So not worth it. Florida, I think you can maybe get away a little more with that because you're not going to, that said, you do have a lot of cottonmouths, but cottonmouths aren't as dangerous as, say, a Western diamondback or anything. We do have Eastern diamondback rattlesnakes in Florida, but they're much, much less common. But yeah, absolutely. Know where you're at, know what kind of animals are in the area, wear protection for sure. Where I would say at the very least, especially if you're in a swamp or anything with tall grass, wear some kind of tall boots with a very thick material that's not going to guarantee to keep you from getting a bite. No, you're okay. What were you saying?
You know what the rule is in Florida. If you go up to some water and you put your hand in it, and if the water's wet, then that means that there's something in there. Of those videos. Yeah,
it's hard. It's so true. It's hard to find a body of water in Florida that does not have an alligator in it. So.
Yeah, no, I love that video because it's just, different people have made different versions of it, but yeah, it's I think it's like some a Dutch guy, and he goes, yeah, if you put your hand in, if you feel the water, if the water is wet, then there's it's something's in there. But
we grew up with it, so we're kind of used to it. But I can imagine how anybody coming to visit would be like, kind of in shock, taken back by the amount of creatures that exist there.
I can't wait. I mean, I don't know if everyone's just hyped it up, but my older sister's like in Orlando at the moment. I'm like, you've got to send me every picture of everything you see. And she's only seen it in knoll so far. So I don't know if they're hiding from her on purpose, because I'm so excited to, I'm waiting for I keep checking my phone, and I'm like, she has it every time she sends a picture or like a message to me. I'm just like, I've never clicked a message so quickly. I sent her that a gif of Lisa Simpson when she's like, I am the lizard queen. I was like, that's me when I go to Florida.
Right. But no, absolutely. And the lizard diversity now, it's conflicting because a lot of the crazy lizards we have are of course invasive from other countries that have started populations there, but we have so many crazy species now: chameleons, African agamids, iguanas. We have a population of monitor lizards now, and I believe they're Asian water monitors, which are one of the largest species in the world, like top 4 or 5, which is insane.
Not the most chill.
Florida is not a real place. I'm convinced, and I'm from.
It's there. Just it's like a fever dream. I swear, it's just like it's made up.
As soon as I tell people I'm from Florida, they're like, "Oh, you're a Florida man. You're one of those Florida men." Yeah,
I was speaking to Terrence about this in the first episode, and I was like, do you know what? I think Floridians get such a bad rep because I know it's just a joke, and it's like saying that Ohio doesn't exist. I don't really know where that joke comes from, but it's just one of those. Ohio doesn't exist.
Oh yeah.
One of them. I don't even know where it comes from. I know I say it weird. Ohio.
The Ohio memes blew up a year or two ago just because of the craziness that goes on in Ohio, and same with Florida and Texas.
I love it. It's so chaotic, and just obviously don't throw animals through windows and such. Just don't throw animals.
And definitely don't pick up alligators or touch them for that matter.
I've never seen one like close up, but I know that they're just it's really hard, I guess, if I don't have a lot of experience with them to comprehend quite how big they are, because like I'm a tall person. I'm almost 6 foot.
I would say your typical gator is only going to be in the range of maybe 6 to 8 feet, which is still big enough that you don't want to be in the water swimming with it, and it would potentially go after pets and things like that. But we definitely get actually my dad lives on the border of the Everglades, and they had a massive, like
dream place to visit.
12 to 13 foot alligator in the backyard in the canal that they had to remove because it was stalking pets. But an alligator that size that's definitely can be an issue, even for
that's
people.
like 2 of me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just how, that's like, it's so hard to comprehend that something that dangerous can be.
They are absolutely dinosaurs. If you've never seen one in, like, up close in person, seeing one 12 feet or larger, it's like being in the same place with a dinosaur. It's pretty.
They
amazing.
are stunning. I love them. I think they're absolutely, stunning creatures. But they just need our utmost respect and just stay away from. I mean, I've seen videos of people just like hiking or whatever. They're in Florida, of course, and then one just will just cross the path in front of them, and it's just I just can't. It's going to completely blow my mind, and I say it every time. I say it all the time. But if I'm used to just even like a tortoise or especially in Florida, because like the soft shells are. The Chinese soft shell, the Florida soft shell, they're one of my favorite kinds of turtles, and
soft shells are amazing. Yeah,
I love them so much, and that's another thing that I always say. I really, really do.
They're adorable, but they are also
mean.
Vicious. They are
they
joke.
are. Yeah, the one that I had as a foster, who I like talking about. I do miss her every day. She was the absolute opposite of a soft shell. She was social. She didn't mind people. Like, she wouldn't go after you, and if you picked her up or that kind of thing. And it's just, I miss her. And I know one that needs a home, but I don't have the space. I don't. As much as I miss, I could hand feed her. She was just the most chill. She was the opposite of what soft shells are supposed to be like.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best. If you get one like that, I've caught Florida soft shells, of course. I grew up with them, and then also the Texas spiny soft shells that are here.
I love them.
They're adorable, especially the little babies. I call them pancakes because they're just little tiny flat things, but they're so fast and insanely. But when they get big, if you catch a big one, I mean, they are no joke. Mouth open, ready to go. I would not want to take a bite from one. I had a tiny little musk turtle bite me. I mean, it was. Oh yeah,
musks. I've had musks, and they. Yeah,
they got some little chompers on them, little beaks.
Yeah, they do. They do. I've never really been bitten. I think I've been accidentally bitten, hand feeding or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But, turtles are they're so underrated. I think as another thing that I always say is people underestimate the personality of reptiles, but turtles especially, because they kind of just think they're just, there's not really much going on in their head. They kind of just live their life and, swim around. They're so much more.
They're definitely very aware of their surroundings and what's going on. And they know when they're, when they think they're, in being threatened of some sort and need to defend
themselves. And people don't realize how long their necks are as well. So you'll have, the ones that can, turn around or turn up and get you. That's why, don't handle obviously any kind of snapper, because you have to hold different snappers different ways.
Absolutely.
You don't, unless you need a free finger amputation. I wouldn't recommend, or what you're doing, of course.
There's a huge misconception, about specifically snapping turtles, and that you can
they're aggressive and
snapping turtle the way that you see people hold alligator snappers. No,
it's completely different.
Turtle is going to whip around and latch onto your wrist, no questions asked. But as you mentioned, personality, they're incredibly. They have great memory as far as where they grow up in habitat, and they know where they live. They know where to hunt for food. If you were to, there's been studies, if you were to move them from their habitat to a different area, a lot of times not going to survive because they're looking for those same breeding grounds, those same hunting grounds where they usually forage and look for food, and it's not going to be there. They cross that same road, every year looking for that mate and things like that. So it's they're incredibly intelligent, I think, more than we give them credit for. So
sure. I mean, I don't expect everyone to have experience, with turtles or whatever, but there are a lot of upkeep if you are thinking about getting one. Obviously, I'm happy to help with anything, but it's more than a tortoise, of course, because you got to change the water and they will make a mess, and but just to reiterate, mentioning like roads and habitats and things, so Turtle Guardians, who again I've mentioned, and Turtle Rescue of the Hamptons, they both are, as you guys know, two of my favorite people who I talk to a lot and have a lot of love and respect for, blah blah blah. They have information on how to handle different turtles, how to sort of safely move them if you need to, all of that kind of thing, and information about their habitats and just some great stuff. So I would definitely, there's lots of places you can get resources, but I know that they share quite a lot of good informative videos, and they love teaching people about more about them and and that kind of thing. So it's important to, as we said, keep them in the same direction that they're facing. Same goes with sort of any frogs and newts and toads and pretty much anything. If they're facing a certain way, just move them to safety. But as long as if it's a snapper and you don't feel comfortable, you just find a stick that's obviously not going to hurt them. Don't prod them, but you
definitely don't pick them up by the tail, because that'll cause so many people issues. I see a lot of videos with people grabbing them by the tail, and it just I hurt for them. My spine starts hurting watching the video. I'm like, oh secondhand pain. You're just like, what is happening? My bad.
No, I always I always comment on those kind of videos just to say, because a lot of people do it for views, or oh my gosh, you've seen one on the road, and it's tried to get you because you've tried to handle it an incorrect way. It's so important to learn. I mean, you could just Google it and it will tell.
Exactly. And there's something about that. If you see somebody actively, you can tell that in the video they're just trying to move it off the road and get it across.
Tell which ones are doing it
the wrong way. Don't message them in the comments, getting all upset and yelling at them, calling them names. Just be respectful and say, hey, I understand what you're trying to do, but this is here's the proper way to do it next time. So that you're not harming the animal, and that's how you educate people properly. I think people oftentimes I see on social media, they get very upset and they want to jump to conclusions, whatever it may be. But it's important to remember that not everybody has this information.
Make the point, and that's what I was going to say. The second part to when I see something like that, I'll comment on it and I'll just say, just an FYI, this is how you do it. You can not in any disrespect. I saw a video of an African clawed frog, or it was one of those videos with different footage of African clawed frogs, and they were all bloated. And if you see that and you think, oh, so they're supposed to look like that, you don't. You're not going to know, this kind of
captive African clawed frogs in a tank, or
and if they've got dropsy, people don't know about that and how important it is to avoid that, how deadly it can be, because I've kept African clawed frogs, and I've got a couple of aquatic frogs. I've got a budget's frog, and
I love budget's frogs. That's probably one of my favorite frogs in the world. I love them so much.
This is what I've said previously. The videos of the budget's frogs screaming. This is one of those things that they are really distressed if they get to the point where they're screaming. It's the same with, toads, excreting the bufotoxins. You really, really have to stress the animal out.
Yeah. No, that's extremely important. Yeah, the viral one of that.
And again,
one running across the floor and screaming is not screaming out of joy, that's for sure.
Yeah, and again, if you don't know, if you just, if you see, or, I've done a video on bearded dragons and household animals like cats and dogs, and the importance of, and how damaging, all of the bacteria under their claws, it can be, even if it doesn't hurt the animal to a large extent, it can, all that bacteria can end up, leading to a slow and painful demise of your animal. It's just not
and that's the kind of information that's so vital, especially for new people getting into the hobby too.
Again, if you don't know any different, budgets frogs, they're the ones that scream, and it's like, right. or toads producing, their bufotoxin, and it's just like, this is such an important thing because it's stressing these animals out,
right?
For for views, or just the importance of education. And I mean, don't feel bad if you didn't know that, if you've seen and laughed at a video before. If you didn't know, that's not your fault. I've had people say in the replies to the African clawed frog comments, like, oh no, I feel really bad now. And it's like, well, you didn't know. That's the kind of thing, I'm just here to let you know that if
we all make mistakes and we all learn from them, so we're all human.
If your frog looks like that, that means they're not being taken care of. And if Budget's frogs are screaming, as funny as it may seem, it's basically the equivalent of a human screaming, like they are not happy. And it doesn't matter how many, if someone finds it funny or how many views you get on it, it's just not worth exploiting an animal for that.
Now if you're, I don't know, maybe moving one from one enclosure to another, and
and it just happens to in transition
floor, I guess that's a different, it's context, I guess. And sometimes social media, it can, it's
again why it's important not to just go at people, because you don't know context.
We have a few species of horned lizards here, and I believe the Texas horned is one of the ones, that when threatened, they shoot the blood out. But I've heard it's actually pretty uncommon, kind of maybe similar to the Budget's frog, where you'd have to it would have to be thinking that it's on the verge of losing its life to do it. And I think also maybe specifically with bufos or cane toads, I think a lot of people in different places kind of see them as like a low value animal, a low kind of because it's an invasive species in so many places, and maybe they don't treat them with the same respect they would some other animals. But just because an animal is an invasive species doesn't mean it needs to.
It's fault that it's
still an animal at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's not its fault, It's just trying to survive. It's just trying to live. It's just trying to live its best life, and it doesn't know that it's invasive. It doesn't go strolling around going, I'm invasive.
Yep. Same with the chameleons, the pythons, and the Everglades, and all that.
Iguanas, and it's
the horrible things people have done to green iguanas in South. Sad, but.
Yeah, I know. It's important just to. I mean, people get annoyed at snails and slugs, and every single time I see one on, especially when it's raining, they'll be all over paths. I will purposely have a torch on my phone if it's dark and I can't see properly, because every time I see one on a path, I know other people aren't going to pick them up because they don't care. And even if I'm walking with a friend or something, they'll be like, "Come on, Alex," and I'll be like, "No, I am moving this slug. This slug is not going to be moved, and it's going to be stepped on and killed." And I will avoid that as much as I can. So, no, you can wait for me, because
you're doing the Lord's work out there. You wouldn't believe some of the messages. You wouldn't believe some of the messages I've gotten on social media and stuff.
It's each to their own. You know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. it's a hard one, but yeah,
You're
talking about
nobody's ever always going to be
exactly. It doesn't
there's
matter
always
how.
somebody that's upset about something you do. There's, at the end of the day, as long as you know what you're doing is right, or it's making you happy, and you know you're doing
Exactly.
what's right in your mind, in your eyes. That's, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's important. That's why everybody can have their own opinion at the end of the day, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But I've had to learn to try and block out the nonsense, because at the end of the day, not everybody's happy with the life they're living, so they're going to project that onto you at times, and that's just life.
That's why I will usually just, if they're going to continue before, it gets to the point of that I ultimately have to block them. I'll just be like, are you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? And I know that's not a very common response or approach. Some people, or maybe most people, would just, feel like they have to return the harshness or whatever. But it's just like, no one that's happy with where they are gonna sort of do that and try and take down others that they don't know.
They would not be taking the time out of their day to sit there and back
exactly.
It's people are funny, but
yes, humans are strange. That's why we like animals. Do you have any sort of favorite reptiles or sort of insects, bugs, that kind of thing, to observe while herping?
Favorite reptiles, I would definitely say, I mean, vipers are always fun. Any types of vipers specifically. As far as instances I've had, I would definitely say observing the giant fer-de-lance I saw in Costa Rica on my first night at an Airbnb, and almost stepping on it. That was an interesting experience, but it definitely won't be leaving my mind anytime soon. It was pretty crazy to see one up close like that. And we also found an eyelash viper in Costa Rica. And I have a whole vlog about that, but that was interesting because the area that we were in on the Pacific coast, near the Osa Peninsula, is not an area that's common for eyelash vipers. Eyelash vipers are much more common on the Atlantic coast of Costa Rica. So we weren't really expecting to see one. And our guide that we were with, Robbie, was telling us, there's a slight chance we could see one, but it'd be tough.
Yeah, you're probably not going to see one. That turns around to tell you that, and then turns back, and there's one.
We're seeing dart frogs all over the place. We're seeing blunt-headed tree snakes and cat snakes, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And then suddenly,
I love a cat snake.
I look over. Yeah, cat snakes are great. I love their bulging little cat eyes. But
they just.
I look over, and there's one just moving through this like little shrub, eyelash viper, this beautiful like Christmas tree or Christmas colored like green with these red orange patterns down the body. You also have those bright yellow banana morphs, or not morph, but banana phase. But yeah, this one was like a bright green with red. It was so awesome.
It must be so surreal just to see them. Just like that's
usually when I see something like that I really want to see, it takes me a few seconds to process what I'm actually looking at. And like that, my brain's creating this right now. Like I'm not actually seeing this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's there.
It's like the jet lag, surely. Like, are you guys seeing this? Are you guys
I was like, what is that? Is that an eyelash viper? But yeah, that was, I think that's one of my favorites that I've seen as far as favorites all time that I have not yet come across. Being from Florida, I would definitely say Eastern indigo snake. I have not yet seen one in the wild. I've only seen them in captivity in nature centers and whatnot. But, they are, of course, a protected species. You can't handle them without permit. And they're one of the most amazing colubrids or snakes in general that we have. It's the largest snake we have in the United States, the Eastern indigo Drymarchon. And it's just this big, shiny, black, beautiful, beautiful snake. Some of them have kind of like a red chin on them. and they eat other snakes. They eat rattlesnakes and really any snakes that come across. And I think potentially even other reptiles. They're just like they're just eating machines. They're huge. They get upwards of 8 to 9 feet potentially. But they're really struggling in the wild due to, mainly habitat loss, people just outright killing them out of fear, because they're afraid of snakes, and they probably assume it's venomous. Collection, illegal collection. So
the slight delay is just like all the people watching the podcast are going to be like, she keeps interrupting. It's like, no, there is a delay. Like when I start my sentence, I see a lot of the Wrangler Bruce videos where people have tried to harm snakes, and it turns because they think it's venomous, or and it turns out not to be venomous at all. And I know we've spoken about him before. And it will just be like, but then he'll post a video of, I remember seeing one of a runner. I think he didn't seem to notice that there was a rattlesnake like just off the path, but people think rattlesnakes or just general snakes. They're gonna, is it gonna strangle me? Is it gonna bite me? Is it gonna kill me? And it's just, well, I guess we can sort of talk about this subject because I always say like the snapping turtle is like the snake of the turtle species because they get there's so much misinformation and stigmas with them, and it's just simply not true. And it's like, if most of the time, obviously there's instances where it's hungry, or most of the time, if you leave it alone, it will leave you alone. Just
absolutely,
respect it and know what it is and what to do if you're on a dog walk and your dog gets bitten by one, or I was just thinking about cane toads. If you do have cane toads native to you, and any of your animals or whatever end up eating it, then take it to a vet immediately, because it will poison your animals or anything. But yeah, there's only one species of bird in Australia. I think it's a crow maybe, and because of the way that they eat them, they don't ingest the toxins, and it doesn't end up
that's amazing. Crows are such intelligent birds. They blow me away. Like them do the little puzzles and things and videos. Unreal.
So cool. So cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there's a lot of stigmas around snakes, and
it's
not fluffy and cute.
There's so many. I think for one, we need to remind ourselves that we're running into snakes so often in certain areas because we're building onto their habitat. We're building onto the places that they lived. So we're going to find them.
Such a good point. People say that about foxes. Yeah, people say that about foxes here. They're like, oh, the fox got into the bins again. And, it's like, well, it's just trying to get by. Like, it's annoying that it's taken all the rubbish out the bin. But it's, we've most likely built on it's, where it used to come.
Exactly.
It's not.
Yeah, we're not the kings of the land. We don't just, the land's not just automatically ours. It wasn't always people's. Like, we are moving into places where these animals have lived and reproduced for hundreds of thousands, millions of years, and their species at least. And it's, we have to remind ourselves, like, we're not so important that these animals and the places they live don't matter.
We share this land and
pretend like they never existed. I mean, it's important to remember that. And if a snake's coming towards you, I would say probably 10 times out of 10, they're not coming after you. They're not trying to chase you. You have very few species that are actually going to come in your direction to try to harm you. And that even then it's because they're fearful. They think they're in danger. Things like black mambas may do something like that. But especially here in the US, you hear so many stories of, for example, cottonmouths chasing people, rattlesnakes, whatever. But at the end of the day, these animals, they don't, first of all, they don't have great vision. They're scared. They're going to pick a direction and they're going to go. They're not going to see a human and be like, oh, I'm not going that way. That's not always the case. A lot of times they're just, I need to get out of this situation as soon as possible. And then they go. You see videos of them swimming up to boats. They're not coming over to bite you. They're looking for safety. They're looking for some kind of a raft, a floating log, and they don't know the difference between a boat in the water and a floating tree stump or something, or a rock that's protruding from the water. They're not out to get you. People think that they're these evil creatures that just want to harm us and they do no good, but it's not the case at all. In fact, there's so many beneficial snakes that we can have, especially rat snakes, and to have them around our homes. They're going to eat all the rodents, and you have other snake species that'll eat the bugs, but we don't need to harm. Even if they are venomous snakes, we don't need to harm them. We can have a specialist come remove them safely from the environment. But you can do things in your yard to prevent or to try and prevent things like that from happening, like snakes coming into your yard. Don't leave the pieces. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To prevention methods, just two things. One, don't use glue traps for any kind of
great point. Yeah.
Pests, snakes, birds. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It doesn't matter how you feel about the animal. If it's vermin to you, no animal deserves that ending. Humane, yeah. No animal deserves that ending. And there are maybe it's a bit out of your way to do it, do it humanely, but just do not buy glue traps. And second of all, snakes can get caught in netting and hurt themselves and then need a professional to remove them from the netting. So just make sure that if you do have netting, I'm sure you've got better ways to keep snakes out as like suggestions, but if you do have netting and a snake does get caught in it, obviously first thing to do is identify the species, make sure it's not venomous, and if you can just help it sort of out safely. If you don't know how to do that or you don't feel comfortable doing that, obviously I don't recommend it if you don't feel comfortable enough to do so, but get a professional to help, because at the end of the day they're just living their lives. They're just animals. It doesn't matter if it's creepy, if you consider it creepy, or if it's the snake, if it slithers, if it has X amount of eyes. This is still an animal. This is a living being at the end of the day. And
just because it's not cute in your eyes and doesn't have fur doesn't mean it's not
it still deserves respect. It still deserves respect. And as I know I'll get like really serious saying it, but no animal deserves a glue trap ending. No. And I think they should be banned. I wish they were banned. But yeah, that's my rant. Just while you said that, I just thought, I better just say that quickly, because you might think, I'll put some netting up, or I'll Google ways to keep wildlife out, and then glue traps come up, and then because we haven't said I hate them. Absolutely hate them.
Glue traps are the worst. I can't stand seeing those videos. Or now, well, a lot of times it'll be like Facebook posts of people like, I caught this snake on a glue trap. What do I do with it? It's just, it's horrible.
I don't know how people can live with themselves. I really don't. I know some people don't care because they don't have the same attachment that we do. We see it as a creature.
It doesn't have that personable nature of a dog or a cat. Something that we feel we can connect or relate to more. And you don't have to be in love with reptiles, but we should definitely respect them. And same with insects and spiders.
You can respect a cat or a dog or anything fluffy and cute. Exactly. There's no difference.
Which brings up another point. This might ruffle some feathers, but don't leave your cats outside, because cats are some of the most destructive creatures on the planet, the most destructive invasive species on the planet. They will literally eat and destroy everything. And you have a lot of people that like to have cats outdoors, but I don't think people should be quiet about the effects it has on the environment. Birds.
I think it should be well. Like, I'm a cat owner. I'm not saying don't get cats.
Yeah, of course.
People a lot. I think because it's not talked about. Because as soon as you say, that cats are destructive of the ecosystem and everything, people immediately get defensive, and that's not what we're trying to achieve here. What we're trying to achieve here is just that people are mindful and are aware of the damage they could do. I even saw a post that from a wildlife rescue that a bat had been, I think, like caught by a cat or something, but because it needed to be tested for rabies for the sake of the cat's owner and the cat. And the only way it could be tested for rabies was, unfortunately, if it was deceased, they had no choice but to just to euthanize the animal to euthanize the bat because of that's the only way it could be tested for rabies. And it's like, that could all just have been avoided if
have been completely avoided. And
the
animal lose its life because they decided to have an outdoor cat.
And my cats are outdoors, and I know it's you can't stop. It's so tough because I feel like I'm going to look like a hypocrite because I have outdoor cats, but they don't really venture far. Yeah, they don't really venture far most of the time. Like 99% of the time, they will sit in the garden where I can see them. They don't really tend to wander off, and that's not an excuse. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm sure they do. Some cats don't catch things as much as others, but it's very hard for me to sit here and say educate yourself on the effects that it has. But to be fair, when I got my cats,
it's a tricky situation.
I wasn't aware of the, like, I've had them for a while now. Like, they're getting old. I wasn't aware. Like, truthfully, I just wasn't aware of the effects that they can have. I don't know. It's a huge problem in Australia, and a lot of people, like a lot of species have gone, native species have gone extinct because of cats. And again, I'm not saying don't own cats. I'm not, because I can't exactly say that. But just be aware and try and do anything you can to prevent. There isn't really any. See, it's just one of those subjects that's that I can sit here and say, but it just, I guess, being aware of it and spreading the awareness is as much as I can do. I don't know if I'll get another cat now after my 2 pass. For that reason as well, because it's a tricky situation, and like I see people who are. It's not like people are unaware that it happens. I mean, I've seen a handful of people that will they'll brag about how many animals their cat kills outside. Like it's almost like it's like a competition or something. And I'm like, that's not that's not okay. And then it's a tricky situation. Like you said, I'm not telling people to not keep cats or anything, but just I know that's not our approach, is tell you what to do, is just educate you on. Absolutely, it can have an impact on native wildlife. Some places more than others. Obviously, if you're in an area that has a very like biologically dense ecosystem, it's going to cause a lot more havoc potentially. But in general, I mean, it can be an issue, but it's a tough subject for sure. So, but I thought it was worth mentioning. No, we're both gonna. No, it is definitely, and I've, there's no point in me turning around and saying I'm going to rehome my cats now because wherever they go, they're going to end up. But it's about being mindful and what I do in the future. After absolutely. I've got them, and I probably won't get another cat because of that. So you can. I'm trying not to be a hypocrite here, but I'm just being honest. At the end of the day, it is obviously it's anybody's choice what they want to do. But Yeah.
As long as you're aware of it and you know, you can make
I
the
am now,
changes
yeah.
in the future. Anybody
Yeah.
who's listening to this, so
You can do
it's
the same, you know, or don't do the same. Like we're not telling you what to do. We're just, you know, these are our personal views.
Bringing
and
awareness.
yeah, that's just
Absolutely.
what we want to do. It's just, but no, that is a good point. Again, yeah, no disrespect to anyone. It's just, we're just having a discussion about it. So can you share a funny or memorable story from one of your herping expeditions? I know you've got a couple of these that you wanted to share when we went over the questions.
Yeah, I
just like laughing to yourself. I was like, these are going to be good.
I mean, I don't know how crazy they are, but and I don't know how funny they are either, but they're interesting.
This is like Florida man perspective. So, you know, the bar for you is different for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, we had so there was a interesting one in, I'll try to quickly walk through two stories. So first story, we went to Costa Rica, and I kind of briefly talked about this recently, but went to Costa Rica near Osa Peninsula, and we stayed at an Airbnb, and on the Airbnb property is a decent chunk of jungle with trails running all through it. And so cool. They have a whole list in the Airbnb of all the species that they've seen there. Snakes, spiders, lizards, and everything.
Was the first thing you do when you it's the first thing that you wanted to do, like when you saw that list, was like, gotta add to it. That's like my new life goal right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we got right out walking the trails. It was nighttime. It was pretty late. And you know, we were kind of exhausted from driving nonstop, because it was a good, maybe, I don't know, it was a few hours drive from San Jose to where we were staying. So yeah, we start walking around. We're seeing tailless whip scorpions everywhere, which, first of all, if you don't know what a tailless whip scorpion is, it's just
not a Taylor Swift scorpion, by the way.
Crazy looking arachnids, completely harmless, but they're wild looking. It's a crazy looking bug that you saw in Harry Potter growing up, and they're everywhere there. But we start walking through, we haven't seen any snakes yet, and then walking up, we hear some noise above us on this trail, and we look way up in this tree, and there's two kinkajous wandering around on the top of this tree, and they dropped a seed down like this big and almost hit one of us in the head. And it kind of startled us. That was kind of what caught our attention, that we saw them, was them dropping the seed on the ground. So we looked out, we're like, what the heck? It's like, oh my God, kinkajous, that's so cool. And then we continue walking as we're still kind of looking up at them. We continue walking down this trail, and we look down, and my friend's like, oh my God, Andrew. My friend Will's like, oh my God, Andrew, there's a snake on the ground, snake. And I look down, and I mean, just a couple feet in front of me, right almost on the trail, just off the side of the trail, was a monster fertilance, terciopelo, which is the most notoriously dangerous snake in South / mostly Central America. And that's Bothrops asper. But they're so dangerous because the healthcare system isn't the best in many parts of Central America, and these snakes have a pretty insane hemotoxic venom comparable to like some of the worst rattlesnakes potentially in the US. And this one was it had to be around 5 feet long, and the head on it was like this big. It was crazy, and I almost walked right into it. Thank God my friend said something, because we were totally distracted from the kinkajous, and we freaked out.
I would have been. My
heart sunk
all my
into
surroundings.
It was. It was freaky. I'm not gonna lie. After the fact, looking back, like, cool, crazy experience.
Oh yeah. One of those that, at the time it was like, no.
It was, whoa. Like,
looking back,
the
because
first night of our trip, and that kind of set the tone for like, okay, we need to. This is a different ball game. This isn't North American herping. Like, you got to look everywhere. You got to look at your feet. They blended amazingly to the leaf litter. I mean, that's what they've evolved to do. So
yeah,
you have to be very careful, but also extremely exciting, because when you're in the jungle at night, if you've ever been to a jungle herping at night, everywhere you look, there's something moving around. There's some kind of creature. It is,
So cool.
it's what I thought it would be times like 10. It's just amazing. We saw smoky jungle frogs everywhere, the big giant ones that make that meow, meow cat noise, like you saw from, like I saw from Jeff Corwin growing up. So that happened. And then that was just kind of a very quick version of that story. But also recently went to Kansas earlier this spring. Me and a couple buddies of mine, we did a little road trip to Kansas from Texas. And our first night in Kansas herping, we kind of started herping in the evening because we got there kind of late, and we herped into nighttime. And the primary way of herping there is by flipping rocks along little back roads, kind of backcountry roads, right along the road, literally.
Putting them back safely.
What's that?
Putting them back where they belong as well.
Yeah. And we found this road with some nice rocks, and we're flipping them. We found an eastern collared lizard, which I love. Probably my favorite North American lizard, collar lizards.
Yeah.
So cool. And we found a little racer. And then we're looking at this bullfrog. There's like a little bullfrog just sitting in the middle of the road. We're looking at it. I'm taking a video of it, for content, and some pictures. And then we see a truck start to pull up.
Did you dive in front of the truck to save its life?
We were already in the road, and he was pulling up kind of slow. So I just grabbed it real quick, moved it off the road. And then
You'd be great for tow patrol. That's basically what we're doing, tow patrol.
Right?
So,
yeah. Oh, I would love to do something like that.
Come in January, February.
That would be great. I do want to get to Europe eventually at some point. And we start to walk up to him. We're waving. We're being all friendly. And I hear him start to get out. He's like, and I hear him say on the phone, he's like, "Oh, we don't need the shotgun for these ones," or something like that. And I was like, "Huh?" And he gets out, and he's like, "What are you?" He was very suspicious right off the bat. He's like, "What do you guys do?"
Stereotypical truck driver.
What's that?
The classic stereotypical truck driver.
Yeah. He's like, "What are you guys doing out here?" And we were like, "Just looking for snakes. We're out here herping." He's like, "Looking for snakes? Like, what are you talking about?" So we start explaining to him what it is. He's like, where are you guys from? He starts giving us all these questions. He tells us we look like we're from the military. It was bizarre. He starts telling us about how there's a lot of like drug running going on in Kansas and all this crazy stuff. And I'm pulling up pictures. I could tell he was still very much skeptical, like not believing our story. He was definitely like under the influence of something. He was acting pretty strange. I'm like showing him pictures of me holding snakes. He was like, I'm starting to believe this snake story. And that's when I was like, all right, he definitely does not believe us. I was like, we got to get out of here. And we eventually talk him down. He gets back in his car. He was definitely a little like rustled up. He was, talking about how his property's nearby. We were on a public road. We weren't on anybody's private property. But he was like definitely concerned. And he gets in his car and starts driving, and we have to get in the same direction. So we're behind him and start driving. And then he stops his car suddenly, gets out, and he's like, "You guys made me spill my beer." And he's like, "What are you guys really up to?" And he starts questioning us. I was like, "This is crazy." So I asked him, I was like, "Oh, do you have somewhere we could go find snakes?" He was like, yeah, up around the bend. You'll find this thing in the middle of the road. You can go check out there. It felt like he was setting us up for something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I didn't like the sound of it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go check it out. We get in the car, and I'm like, we are getting the F out of here right now. I was like, we were herping, but I'm like, we can't. This isn't.
Sometimes you got to trust that gut feeling. And as much fun as herping is,
he was. I'm leaving a lot out. He was saying some bizarre things, for sure. But I was like, yeah, we'll go check it out. So we get in, we drive around him, and we go to the end of the road where he said to make a left. And if you go to the right and you go straight, it'll take you right to the highway. So these are like back tiny little dirt roads. And I get to the end and I make a right, and I see this guy floor it, hit the gas and floor it, trying to catch up to us, like chasing us. And he must have, at that point, he must have been like, "Oh, they're leaving. They must be up to something. They're doing something bad." And I just floor it to the highway, and I get on, and he turns around and leaves, and I'm I was out of there. But that was one of the strangest experiences I've had herping. That is very rare, but that should tell you, if anything, for anybody listening to this, do not go out by yourself into the woods or anywhere in the backcountry looking for animals, because you never know what kind of weirdos you're going to run into sometimes.
Yeah. You might see him on, like, you know, the FBI's.
Yeah. It was.
I feel like you're going to one day. You're going to see, like, you know, in some news in that area of someone, you know, that didn't trust their gut instincts.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
And there was three of us. Like, we're pretty like big guys, and I was like, the first thing came to mind, I was like, dang, like, imagine somebody just being by themselves out here doing this. Like, what would happen? Yeah. So just, I don't know. Maybe not. I know they weren't funny necessarily, but just a couple.
Oh yeah, no. Funny, but also that is definitely. I was imagining it the whole time in my head. I was just like, what happened? And then you did cut out at one point, and then
I shared a little bit of it in my YouTube vlogs. They're out there, the Kansas ones, but it was good times. I know what I'm
doing for the rest of the evening. I'm just gonna like binge watch all of your. So yeah, speaking of that just sort of leads us to our last question.
Okay.
Do you have any favorite spots or locations that you always return to, or do you have any recommendations? Because as I said, sort of when we were going over the questions, you obviously go from like Florida to Texas, and you've been to all sort of places.
So as far as recommended places,
or favorite, is that?
Yeah, I would say definitely around. I mean, I love, part of the reason I moved to Texas was to herp. I think Texas has some of the most amazing and diverse herpetofauna in the United States, personally. I don't know if everybody will agree with that. You know, you have Californians that think they have the best, and Florida thinks they have the best, but Texas is definitely up there. I love around Austin. We have lots of beautiful, beautiful hiking areas. I would say I can't give out too many specific locations because you never know who listens and then wants
the truck driver's listening and he's like, I found him.
There's that dude that was up to no good on my country road. Yeah.
Just but like style in a drain.
Honestly, the cool thing about Austin is right near the city, you can find trails with tons of snakes. I found my lifer Texas coral snake right in Austin on this one's super popular, it doesn't matter, but the Barton Greenbelt is a great place to see a nice variety of species, coral snakes, couple different species of garter snakes, salamanders at certain times of year. Really, we have beautiful ribbon snakes here. Our western ribbon snakes, Thamnophis proximus, are gorgeous, like green and reds and whites. Also, I would say South Florida, of course. Got to throw in South Florida, the Everglades. Out west of Miami, out there you have so many different species between the natives. We have an amazing diversity of natives, but also the invasive species. There's so many now, which, you know, it's a shame. Obviously, it's impacting Florida's wildlife, our ecosystems. But as a herper, you know, it is interesting that you can see these crazy species like giant pythons and they have tegus now, Argentine giant tegus.
I heard about that, yeah.
Monitor lizards. I mean, it's turning into a real life Jurassic Park. It really ridiculous. You have American crocodiles. Yeah, I think a lot of people actually don't know, but we have American crocodiles in South Florida, believe it or not. If you haven't seen videos of it, so those are native though. I've
got a lot of Floridian friends that they obviously know to send me when they see something mad, like to send me. So yeah.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of good stuff down there. But yeah, anywhere in South Florida, amazing places. And then I'm traveling to Southeast Asia soon, so that'll be cool. Get a lot of really sad to see as somebody who grew up in South Florida and watched so much habitat be removed like around me as a kid, and so many animals that I used to see regularly are like difficult now. We used to see corn snakes, and corn snakes are not, I mean, they're not under any threat as a species, but we used to see them all over our neighborhood. And I haven't seen one in the neighborhood I grew up in 15 years. It's
sad.
I can only imagine what it's doing to other species. Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like to share or tell our listeners about that we haven't covered? And if not, where can we find you on social media? Where can we find you online, your YouTube, etc.?
Gotcha. Nothing in particular I want to share. Just as I already mentioned, I am packing up everything, selling all my stuff, and doing like a whole solo backpacking journey across a lot of Southeast Asia is the plan, at least. I don't know how long I'm going for, and the only reason hey, anybody can join in. But it's I'm just going to go target different species in different regions, and we're going to do our best to try and find them. And then I'm going to just keep exploring new places, meeting new people, exploring the culture, eating the foods. Like, I want to do the whole bit. I'm excited for it. And I'm going to be just filming my way around.
I'm excited.
I appreciate it. I don't know how long I'm going for, but that remains to be seen. So as far as where you can find it, my YouTube channel is at Wild Attractions, or you could probably just type in Wild Attractions on there. And that's been taking off. I'm extremely appreciative of it. It's been doing so well lately, and been gaining a bit of a following on there, which is the reason I'm even able to do this in the first place. So extremely grateful for that. And then, on other social media platforms, on Instagram, I have Wild Attractions there as well, is the name. And then also I have another channel, which is more so kind of my channel for like my YouTube stuff, YouTube specific channel, at wa.herps there. Just a separate channel I have for, I don't know why. I would like to consolidate everything at some point.
Yeah, you were saying this the other day, weren't you?
One central channel, just to make it simpler. And then on TikTok, Wild Attractions as well. But yeah, that's about it.
And I have tagged you in all of the sort of promotional or the preview things. So you can also find that on the Reptile Rendezvous podcast, Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Sweet. I make sure I tag. So thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to check out Andrew's social media for more herping adventures. And until next time, stay wild and happy herping.
Thanks for watching. See you guys later.